Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.
I'm excited to do this. Let's go win that leadership!
Hey gang, what's up? Aaron right here, Canadian Looney. So Karina Gould, Karen the Ghoul Gould, is throwing her name into the Liberal leadership race hat. It's like the Special Olympics or something for this Liberal leadership race. Mark Carney, Chrystia Freeland, now Karen Gould, Karina Gould. Like, it's a disaster, guys. What a mess. Who cares who's going to be the next Liberal leader? They're going to fall on their sword. Oh, Lord. Anyways, Karina Gould, they roll out the red carpet. Gotta say, like, for a mother of an alien baby, and I've been making fun of her since I started watching her, because she's full of it. But she's kind of cute in a way. She's got nice dimples. And a lot of energy when she's rolling out the red carpet for herself right here. Let's take a look. Karina Gould. Well, whatever the Liberals do. Maybe she gets my vote out of those alternatives like Freeland and Carney, because they're dirtbags. And so is she. So what do we have to choose from? Anyway, here she goes. Like, she's gonna loosen up.
Karina Gould, please welcome Karina Gould! Karina Gould, and I'm running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada. I am so happy to be here with all of you today. You are the people that believed in me from day one. You are the folks that work hard, that knock on doors, that get out there and talk to Canadians and listen to them. And we're here at a local small business where we have coffee and chats, where we chat with the community. I'm a grassroots politician, and I'm here because of every single one of you. And I'm so grateful to be here with my family, with my friends, my colleagues, my supporters. I'm a middle-class kid from Burlington. I grew up here with a mom who was a local veterinarian and a dad who fought for farmers. They taught me the value of hard work, of tenacity, and always fighting for what matters and standing up for Canadian values. It is such a privilege to be the representative of Burlington. It is such a privilege to get to take your voices to Ottawa. And I'm here today to say that I want to take the voices of all Canadians to Ottawa. My grandparents came to this country after World War II. They arrived with $5 in their pockets, hopes and dreams. They became apple farmers in Lyndon, Ontario. And my grandmother got to see me not just become a member of Parliament, but become a cabinet minister. And my story is the story of so many Canadians whose families might have been here since time immemorial, or maybe they've only been here for 10 years. But it is that dream, that hope, that promise of opportunity and possibility that Canada represents. I want to tell you why I'm a Liberal. I became a Liberal on October 30th, 1995. I was a small child then. But what I can say is I have a very clear memory of the moment I became a Liberal. And for those of you that know that date, it's the date of the Quebec referendum. And I remember sitting on our living room floor watching the results come in. And I remember the anxiety that I felt as a child, that something was going to happen to my country, that there was a nervousness about the future. And then I remember seeing Prime Minister Jean Chrétien come on television. And I remember feeling relief. But more than anything, I thought, that is a man who fights for Canada. And it was in that moment that I realized that that is the essence of the Liberal Party of Canada. Liberals fight for Canada. And when it comes to standing up and fighting for Canada, I want to say something very clear to anyone who thinks that we should become American. Canada's sovereignty is non-negotiable. Now, if I'm being honest with you, we have a big challenge ahead of us. Canadians have lost trust in our party. And if we are going to be able to keep building our country, we must rebuild our party. I became a Liberal at the age of 14 because I believe in Canada. I believe in who we are as a people. I believe in the promise that we represent for the entire world. The Liberal Party of Canada is not a hobby for me. It's not a side project. It is something that I have been working for my entire life, like so many of you in this room and Liberal Party members across the country. And so as we re-engage Canadians, we need to re-engage Liberal members, because it is Liberal members across this country who have had some of the greatest debates on our policy convention floors, who have brought forward bold ideas that have moved Canada forward. And that is what I'm asking of you from across the country. Join the party, make a donation, bring your idea forward. I want to hear from you. Because we wouldn't have things like same-sex marriage in this country if it wasn't for the bold ideas of the young Liberals of Canada. We wouldn't have legalized cannabis in this country if it wasn't for the bold ideas of the young Liberals of Canada. We wouldn't have had the courage to make reconciliation one of our top priorities if it wasn't for the bold ideas of Liberal members across this country. I'm running to be the next leader of the Liberal Party of Canada and your future Prime Minister because I want the same things for me and my family that I want for you and yours. I want you to be safe and feel safe in your home and your community. I want you to have a good job that gives you the confidence and the comfort to know that you can pay the bills that you need to pay. I want you to breathe clean air and drink clean water. And I want you to have access to health care when you need it.
She's such trash, guys. Like, we can see right through this. Like, want to take a look at some of her House of Commons behavior? She's a gross menace. Anyways, go, Karen, go. Go, Karen, go. Go, Karen, go.
I am here for you, for Canada, today, tomorrow, and for years to come. It is time for a new generation of leadership, a generation of leadership that brings people along, that reaches out to those who feel they've been left behind, a generation of leadership who's not going to stand behind a podium and read a speech that was prepared by somebody else. No, someone who speaks from the heart, who puts people, Canadians first, who's not thinking about how we can do this as a bureaucracy in Ottawa, but is thinking about how it impacts people right across the country. I have always felt that the job of a politician is to put the human face on policy. And it is you, the Canadians across this country, who are in my heart every single day. Join me. Visit karinagould.ca, sign up, get your membership, donate, okay? Volunteer. Because together we can rebuild this party so that we can keep building our country, and we can rebuild this party so that we can re-earn the trust of Canadians and build the Canada that we want and win the next election.
Karina, you talked about climate change in your video. We've heard, there's been a lot of discussion, obviously, about the carbon tax and what to do with it. Some other leadership contenders have said they would suggested they would scrap the consumer price. What is your position on that?
Yeah, thanks for the question. Look, I think what's incredibly important is that for Liberals, and quite frankly for Canadians across this country, climate change is one of the most important issues that we are facing. And one of the things that I love most about Canadians is that when there's a problem, they look for ways to solve it. And I understand that the price on pollution is something that a lot of Canadians don't feel speaks to what and how they think they can contribute and how they can make a difference. So what I am proposing is that we need to immediately cancel the increase to the price on pollution ahead of April 1st. We need to bring in measures that are going to help Canadians make the decisions that they want to make, because Canadians are actually making those decisions already. They're already looking for ways to reduce their emissions, but sometimes it's too expensive. So we need to make sure that we're helping them buy an electric or hybrid vehicle. We're helping them reduce their their emissions in their homes, and finding other ways for them to make those contributions. While at the same time, industry needs to play its part. We need to make big polluters pay, and we need to ensure that we have a comprehensive national plan to fight the climate change. This is so important. Look, we're seeing what's happening in California, and we've seen the wildfires across the country. And Canadians care about this. But let's give them the tools and the way forward to make those decisions so that they too can be part of the solution. Oh, 1 second, Dennis. I'm just going to do it in French, and then I'll get to you.
How much the government has defended this, and how you've been attacked, quite frankly, by Pierre Poilievre on the issue. How can you turn around and change that, but keep the price as is? So, look, I listen to Canadians and understand where they're coming from, and we need to make sure that we are hearing Canadians where they are. And so this is a demonstration that I hear them.
that we're going to keep fighting climate change, but I hear that this isn't necessarily the way that they want to do it. And so we need to make those difficult choices. I'm not afraid to make those difficult choices, and I'm not too proud to change policies if they're not working for Canada. Dennis.
Could you describe for us the support network that you will rely on? Because you have essentially, you're a mother of 2 small children, government house leader, even though the house is not sitting and running for the party.
Yeah.
Can't do this alone. How will you manage?
With everybody in this room. So just to be clear, I spoke with the Prime Minister earlier, a couple of days ago, to let him know that I would be resigning my cabinet post in order to pursue the Liberal leadership race. And in this room, I have friends and I have family, and I have the most incredible support network a girl could ask for. You know, I have an amazing husband, I have an amazing dad, I have amazing brothers who all step up to help and to be there. And I am so unbelievably fortunate to be surrounded by love and support that I'm able to do this work, not just on behalf of Canadians, but on behalf of my own children, for whom I want them to have the best possible future for them and for all kids across this country.
You've suggested, Karina, Donald Trump won't listen to your fellow leadership candidates. Why do you think the incoming president will listen to you, and why do you think you're best suited to manage Canada's relations with the Trump administration?
Yeah, look, I want to be very clear that I think it's really important that we have bankers and journalists, and I have tremendous affection for both, Chrystia Freeland and Mark Carney. I just don't think Donald Trump is going to care whether you were a banker or a journalist or a baker, for that matter. I think what Canadians need, and what's going to be the most effective for us as a country, is to have a leader who has the confidence of the party, and more importantly, a leader who has the confidence of the country. You know, if you give a bully your lunch money, they don't leave you alone. They come back for more, and they just keep shaking you down. And what we need now, more than anything, is someone who can bring this country together. We need a united Team Canada approach, whether it is, political parties across this country, whether it is premiers across this country, whether it is businesses, labor unions, everyday Canadians. We must be united and strong in the face of these tariff threats, because what do bullies respond to? Strength. They back down. And I can tell you that I've been dealing with a bully in the House of Commons every single day. And I know how to stand up for Canada and for Canadians.
Thank you. And just to follow up, do you think there's room in this leadership campaign to talk about issues besides Donald Trump, and what do you think those are?
Yeah, there has to be. There has to be. Look, this is obviously, Donald Trump, and tomorrow is a big day for the world, right? With President Trump's inauguration. But that's not the only thing going on. Canadians are still struggling. They're still struggling with the cost of living, with housing, with rent, with food. Those are things that are so important. We still have important work to do when it comes to reconciliation with Indigenous peoples. We still have important work to do when it comes to fighting climate change. We still have important things to do when it comes to protecting who we are and our Canadian values. And so we absolutely have to be able to have a broader conversation, because Donald Trump is going to be there for the next 4 years, but Canada is going to be here for hundreds of years more. And so how are we going to make sure that that promise of Canada that I spoke about is real for everybody in this country? And when I think about the threat that is facing us right now, yes, it's coming from south of the border, but it's also coming from Pierre Poilievre and this iteration of the Conservative Party of Canada. And we must protect who we are as Canadians from his dangerous agenda of cuts and his desire to change the very nature of what it means to be Canadian. So for those of you who say, well, she doesn't have any economic experience, and what's your international experience? Well, I sat on the first Canada-US Cabinet Committee during the first Trump administration. I was the chair of the Cabinet Committee on Canada and the World. I was the Minister of International Development who had to negotiate and defend Canada's interests, and I was the Minister of Families. And I think Canadian families know what it's like to live in this economy. And I was the Minister of Families who negotiated childcare across this country, which is saving families thousands of dollars every year. I'm a mother who goes grocery shopping. I'm a mother who has to live in this economy. I'm a person who understands what Canadians are going through. And I think if you asked every Canadian family right now what matters to them, it's making ends meet. And that's what our economy is about. Moi, je veux écouter des militants de partout dans ce pays. Les Canadiens se joignent à une parti politique parce que c'est leur manière d'améliorer et de partager leurs idées et d'essayer d'avoir leur impact sur le futur de leur pays. Et moi, je veux écouter des Canadiens encore une fois. Je crois que c'était une des choses qui était le plus important d'être une membre du Parti libéral. C'était d'avoir des débats, des conversations, d'explorer toutes les possibilités qu'il a pour le Canada. Dans une démocratie, pas toutes les idées avancent. Mais c'est important d'avoir cette discussion. Et c'est ça que je veux des militants de partout dans ce pays. Et on a besoin d'écouter de tout le monde en chaque partie de ce pays. Ça se peut qu'on n'a pas des députés en Saskatchewan, mais on a des libéraux en Saskatchewan. Et ils ont les voix importantes qu'on a besoin d'écouter. Parce que le Parti libéral doit être une partie qui est là partout dans le pays, qu'il n'y a ni une région dans le pays où il n'y a pas une voix libérale. Alors, je veux écouter de tout le monde, puisqu'on peut reconstruire notre pays, et en reconstruisant notre parti, on peut reconstruire notre pays. Merci. So when I talk about rebuilding the party, I'm talking about hearing from Liberal members, party members from across this country who have important ideas, who have a vision for who we are as a country. We need to have those policy debates. We need to hear those ideas because that's what makes the Liberal Party so great. And we have to make sure that we are hearing from people right across the country. And so we might not have any members of Parliament in Saskatchewan right now, but we have members of the Liberal Party of Canada, and their voice matters too. And we need to make sure that the Liberal Party of Canada is not just based in some regions in the country, but is a truly national party where we hear from everyone. Because by rebuilding our party, by having those great policy debates, we're going to put forward the best ideas for Canada. And so I'm excited to re-energize, re-engage the membership so that we can keep building our country.
And is it right to allow taxpayers to go ahead and forward the legislative
taxes? Good question. As a former House leader, it's a complicated one. But what I will say is I think we need to have a serious review of the capital gains tax increase. We need to hear from innovators in particular. And one of the things that I've committed to in my conversations with leaders who are entrepreneurs, who are in the tech industry, is how do we find a way to enable growth in a meaningful way? And so I'm going to have more to say on that in the coming days.
And as minister, you oversaw the government's about phase on electoral reform. Do you support changing from first past the post? And what is your message to young voters who feel sort of betrayed by your government?
Well, look, at the time that decision was made, it was when Donald Trump first entered office and when he was threatening to renegotiate NAFTA. And he did renegotiate NAFTA, and then he imposed tariffs on aluminum and steel in our country. And if we were going to do something as big as bring forward electoral reform, we needed to have the energy of the country behind us. And so this is another moment that we are facing with Donald Trump right now, who is threatening 25% tariffs on our entire economy. And being in government is about making difficult choices. And so I think that is an important conversation that carries on and we need to keep having because our democracy is so important. And so how do we ensure that that conversation can happen, can be done in a way that is productive and brings people together, while also understanding that we have to meet the moment and make sure that we are protecting our country. Yeah.
I'm Rashid Sayed. I write opinion pieces from Globe, Toronto Star, and Troy Media. One question you mentioned of presenting a united front against Trump's tariff. How do you reconcile with Daniel Smith's position on this scenario?
Yeah, look, I mean, I think the premiers were pretty effective in this. I'll give it to Doug Ford and Wab Kinew, two people who are on opposite ends of the political spectrum, who said now is not the time to divide our country. It's time for everyone to get on board. And I'll say that the same goes for Pierre Poilievre, right? Who said he was going to bring back warrior culture. Well, turns out it's keyboard warrior, okay? Because when the rubber hits the road and he's asked to stand up for Canada, he immediately says, oh, but not everything is on the table. I'm sorry, when your country is under threat, everything is on the table because every Canadian matters. But this is what we expected from him, right? It's the same thing that happened last time. The Conservative politicians, instead of standing up for Canada when we were renegotiating NAFTA, which we did well, and which we won, by the way, their instinct was to capitulate. Their instinct was to sell the things that matter to Canada and to Canadians. And I'm here to say to all of them, to every Canadian, Canada first and Canada united.
I don't understand. So you're leaving it as is, but you would scrap a plan increase. So are you saying, like what you're saying, people don't really like it anymore? So why wouldn't you just get rid of the whole thing?
Well, because it's responsible currently for 10% of our emissions reduction. So just because Pierre Poilievre is not telling the truth doesn't mean that we shouldn't have good policy that has a meaningful impact. But I also understand that now is not the time to increase it, that Canadians want to make a difference, and we're going to provide them, and I'm going to provide them, different ways for them to do just that. Thank you. Thank you so much, Burlington, for being here. Merci, Burlington. Merci, j'ai hâte de cette course. I'm excited to do this. Let's go win the leadership!
We'll wrap it up right there, Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney. So Karina Gould, the Ghoul, is a stifling issue that Canadians have to deal with. She's the House leader of these nut job, Kool-Aid, cult drinking, liberal special people. Like, they're a bunch of loons. They're libtards. Name them that. They want groups? Give them a group. You're a libtard. And Canadians know that you are junk for our future. We're fed up. These things are not working anymore. Hear the people that are telling it back to you. Your constituents reject you. All of your ideas are disgusting and short-lived. You're done. All of you. If you're not, like, just not elected in the forthcoming election, whenever you give that one to us, you will be finished after that. I cannot believe that you would be a part of this party and think that you have a future in this country. Just saying. Stephanie Cousy, you did let that dumb woman know. Stephanie Cousy, much respect. Come on the show. Love to hear your platform. Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney, like, share, subscribe, get notified. These liberals are driving me a bit nuts. I might have been a little bit that way in the first place, but they push you over the edge. This woke shit, it doesn't fly, guys. We're open-minded here. We really are. Not to the libtard bullshit woke think, though. Won't give in. Screw them. Love us. Take care, Aaron, Kennedy, and Looney. See you next video. Everyone has an opinion about Canadian federal politics.